Correct.
So it's more like you get a group of schools together, you go to one body of water, and then you kind of compete that way?
Correct. And so the last 2 years, well, the first year we had just one fish off at Winnipesaukee, one tournament at Winnipesaukee. And then last year we had one at Winnipesaukee, and then the top third went to Winnisquam after that.
Mm-hmm.
This year, Keene High School is going to host an invitational tournament on the Connecticut River on September 6th. And we're inviting all of the high schools to come down here, so we'll actually have a third opportunity to fish against other schools. And eventually, I think, in the future, I see where we have, Monadnock, Fall Mountain, Keene High School, New Ipswich, some of the local schools coming together for maybe another tournament during the year. But again, it really depends on all trying to get those volunteers and coordinating that with the state.
Yeah, well, I was just going to ask you that because, I mean, in this little corner of the state, there's a lot of water, obviously, and a lot of fishing going on. And we've got actually a lot of high schools kind of in this corner of the state. I mean, especially even if you include Brattleboro. Now, what about Vermont? Are they doing anything over there? Or?
As far as I know, Vermont has no high school fishing at this moment.
Yeah.
There's only a couple of states in the country that actually have certified bass fishing as a varsity sport. However, the college level is skyrocketing across the country. You can actually earn college scholarships through bass fishing.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting. Now, I'd assume that would be probably some of the more southern schools.
A lot of colleges have bass fishing teams, and depending upon where you are geographically, depends upon how far you have to travel. A lot of the bigger tournaments based on body water size do take place in the southern half of the country.
Right. That's what I was kind of thinking, because I know there are some large bodies of water down there where you do have a lot of bass fishing tournaments, and fairly close to some large colleges where they have tens of thousands of students.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I could see that. But so college. So you can actually get, I guess, a degree in bass fishing now?
I don't think you can. Well, I don't know if you can get a degree in bass fishing, but you can certainly get a degree in fisheries.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a couple of people over here at Fishing Game, Gabe Grease and Jason, I don't remember, Jason Carrier, both of our local biologists.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be at our September tournament, checking the fish population and checking the sizes and.
Yeah. So you need volunteers for this tournament coming up, right?
Yeah, the September 6th tournament. Yeah, we could probably use anywhere from. I'm hoping to get about 10 to 15 boats just to put Keene High School students on.
Okay.
That's going to be one of our qualifying tournaments to eventually make the varsity team. Last year we did 2 qualifying tournaments. Both of them happened to be on Spofford Lake, and then. The top 4 anglers from those tournaments, weight-wise, make the varsity team. The rest of the kids will make the JV team. And then the top 2 anglers out of that whole group will fish in the state tournament.
Yeah, and so that was another question. How the fishing is by weight. It's not necessarily by the number of fish. It's by weight, right? Like kind of the bigger tournaments.
Correct. So. For instance, right now in the state of New Hampshire, you can only keep 2 bass. So if you had a team, it'd be a 4 bass limit right now.
Mm-hmm.
For the high school kids, we do a 4 bass limit, even if it's in the fall. So for the September 6th tournament, it'll be an 8 bass limit. So each high school will have an opportunity to weigh in 8 bass, and the place will be based on the weight of those 8 bass.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, interesting. And I just want to remind everyone, you're listening to Sound Off here with Kyle Jarvis and myself, Greg Pregent, on AM 1290 and FM 107.5 and WKBKradio.com. If you have any comments or questions, give us a call at 357-1290 or email us at Pregent at WKBKradio.com. We're talking to Sean Graves. He is the coach of the Keene High School bass fishing team, which is pretty cool. And all right, let me ask you this on volunteers. Now, I guess my assumption would be that insurance in some form would be needed. I assume if you have a $20,000 bass boat, you probably already have insurance on that. But what are the requirements if people do want to help out?
That'd be a relatively cheap bass boat.
Well, okay, I was just throwing a number out there.
I'd like to find a nice $20,000 bass boat.
A used bass boat.
Yeah, they have to have the regular liability insurance. It's 100, 300,000. The standard boat insurance usually covers what we need.
Okay, so there's not any extra liability waivers or anything that people need to worry about.
The high school anglers have to wear their life jackets the entire course of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the state policies that we have. Although the deck of a bass boat is a pretty safe place to be.
Oh yeah, it is. Great place to be. It's the office.
Yeah, you're right, exactly.
And
now let's talk a little bit about equipment, about the kids. You know, do the kids bring their own fishing gear with them? Is any of it supplied or donated?
We've had a couple of local people donate some equipment. We've had Ed Mizuko, who has his own little bait shop over on Colby Street. We've had Robert Graves, who has a bait and tackle shop out in Spofford, donate some equipment as well. Those are probably the two major donors we've had. We've had some individuals as well donate some equipment. And then, but for the most part, anglers supply their own equipment. So as a varsity sport, it's going to be a relatively cheap sell, I think, for us to be eventually certified at the high schools. Right now we're on a probationary 3-year period.
Yep.
But in the long run, you know, in terms of costs to taxpayers and stuff like that, it should be a relatively inexpensive sport.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was, you know, that's what I was thinking about. I mean, the infrastructure on this is relatively small. I mean, you know, we were talking a couple weeks ago down at Keene High School. They need to resurface, redo the track field down there, and along some other things, and it's $500,000 repair.
Yeah, the track desperately needs to be resurfaced.
And I agree it does, but I guess my point is that, you know, that's a lot of infrastructure costs going along with that.
Yeah, I mean, the general cost of track is relatively inexpensive, except for the maintenance of the track itself.
Yeah.
You know, the uniforms, the equipment is not a huge budget. But, you know, in terms of the bass fishing, you know, basically it's whatever school insurance for the athletes, and then the boat insurance is taken care of by the volunteer captains.
Mm-hmm. And so maybe we can get into a little bit of detail quickly just on, and Kevin, and maybe you can help me out on this, on,
Yep.
you know, on bass fishing themselves. Now, what kind of rods and reels and lures would they normally be using for the bass fishing here?
That's well, yeah. There's.
I mean, I know there's a lot of choices.
There is a lot. Yeah, you know, when you get up to Sean and I, we're really into it. There's a rod for every technique out there. You know, they can come out with a basic, you know, spinning rod, you know, 6.5, 7 foot spinning rod with, you know, 10 pound, 12 pound line, and probably do all right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've got a rod for almost every application. You know, there's different applications out there. Sean can attest to that. And, you know, most guys have probably 15 to 20 rods, more like 20 rods in their boat at any given time, right?
Yep, would be somewhere in the ballpark of how many rods are in the boat. The hard part is I think one of the things that people don't understand about fishing in general. There is an element of luck if you go down to the dock and you toss your bobber in the water and a fish comes along and bites it.
Yep.
In tournament fishing, there isn't a whole lot of luck involved. I mean, I think a lot of people say, you know, good luck fishing, but there's not a whole lot of luck involved. I mean, it's a matter of knowing what pattern the fish are in, what time of year the fish are, what stage of the year they're at.
Mm-hmm.
What type of body of water are you fishing? Is it a clear body of water? Is it a weedy body of water? Is it a rocky bottom? Are you targeting largemouth? Are you targeting smallmouth? There's a whole host of variables. And if you look at the pro level, if there was luck involved, then the same anglers every year wouldn't finish at the top of the top of the charts.
Well, let me ask you this question then: Is there an advantage necessarily to having volunteers who have, I guess, nicer bass boats, who have more gear, depth finder, fish finders, things like that, rather than, let's say, someone with a very simple boat, so to speak?
It only depends if they know how to use all that equipment.
Okay.
Well, I will say this, that, you know,